loves, thanks for returning. I hope this video finds you happy and doing well. As you know by the thumbnail, this video is going to be a ranking video. I decided to rank my Urban Decay Naked eyeshadow palettes. So if you're interested, then just keep watching. All right, so I have all of my palettes right here, and I have all of them but one, and that would be the second palette, or the Urban Decay 2 palette. And I've been wanting to do a video like this for the longest. I see a lot of these floating around the YT, and I think I'm just going to make a ranking series out of this. And for the eyeshadow palettes where I pretty much have all of the palettes that that brand makes, or let's say if I'm missing maybe 3 or 4 or something like that, I'll still go ahead and do a ranking video. So I'm going to start off from my least favorite and, you know, kind of work my way up like that to the palette that I like the most out of all of them. And the palette that I like the least, and that's not to say that I don't like it at all, it would have to be the very first one. And the only reason this one falls in the category of my least favorite is because I can only get so many eye looks out of this palette. Actually, even when I've attempted to do different eye looks, they all end up kind of looking the same. I think probably the thing that I like most about this palette is the packaging. Yes, I still suffer from that. Thought that was one thing that I left behind in 2019, but I think that I'm still suffering from stuff like that, the packaging. But either way, I thought that the eyeshadows in this palette were okay. A lot of them were kind of on the dense side, and in order to get the most pigment payoff, I did have to apply extra layers to get the maximum opacity on them. I really did enjoy using Buck because I use that as a transition shade, and Creep, which is the dark shade, I really enjoyed using that because I would use it in an outer V. I like it when palettes have a black or a deep brown or a deep blue, just something deep where I can deepen up the shadows if I have to in a palette, as well as Gunmetal. I really enjoyed using this one. But overall, the reason that this palette is falling in the least favorite is just because I didn't find it to be a lot of variety for me in this palette. The next one would have to be the Naked 3. And the same thing pretty much applies for this palette as it did for the Naked. It's just because I couldn't get a lot of different looks out of this palette. However, the looks that I did create with this palette, I really enjoy. It's just pretty much a soft pink, muted mauve palette, and I found that Dark Heat was a really, really pretty color. It has a deep dark burgundy undertone. All of the metallics, I didn't find them to be extremely pigmented. These eyeshadows, I did find myself having to layer on upon layer to really achieve maximum opacity. But overall, if I was just looking for a palette that was just really going to give me one soft, muted, mauve type of look, kind of like something to go with what I have on, I would definitely pick a palette like this. This palette was worn a lot when I was working. You can get a quick, soft, work appropriate, church appropriate. And when I say church appropriate and work appropriate, I'm just talking about more on the conservative side, not something that's going to be very flashy. But yeah, would I purchase this palette again? I don't know that I would repurchase it again, only because it just didn't give me enough variety, and the looks that I was able to get, they were just kind of muted, if that makes sense. I did find that the shadows in this particular palette were long lasting, and they really were, and they really are sweat proof, and I know you like sweat proof, and I say that because I can remember doing a look with this palette to go to a concert years ago. And you know, when you go to a concert, you're dancing, you're singing, you're having a good time. And by the time I made it home, my eyeshadow look looked the exact same as when I first applied the shadows. So yeah, this would come in as my second to least favorite. All right, so the next one would be the Smoky palette. But before I get into the shadows, I like this packaging. That's another thing. You know, Urban Decay really does packaging really well, in my opinion. And folks like me, they're going to get me every time with that. Even their brushes, the way their brushes look are really cool. Because with this brush, it kind of has, like, if you look at it really closely, it looks like it has a little smoke in it. It's just really cool, and it's double-ended. But either way, that's beside the point. But I really do enjoy this palette to get some smoky looks, some very sexy smoky looks. This is a really good palette for going out. You know, it's just there's just no fail in this palette. This, let's see, what color is this? Whiskey, this chocolate brown, makes for a good transition color, or you can deepen up your crease with it depending on your skin tone. Black Market, this black right here, this looks like a black but it has a purple like undertone. Those are really pretty colors for smoking out a eyeshadow look and just making it look really sexy. All of these other metallic colors are really nice. Again, I just kind of find that with Urban Decay's Naked metallic eyeshadows that you are going to have to build them up. However, I think that that's worth it because they last a long time. So I think that with these palettes, with the Naked palettes, it's just kind of some give and take there. All right, so next would be the new Naked Reloaded, and it comes in a package like this, and here are the shadows. And I actually have this palette on right now. I don't know, it's something about this palette. I really do like it, but for some reason I don't like it enough to make it #1, and that's only because of the color story. The color story is a little bit too subtle or muted for me to rank it as my most favorite. But I love these peach tones right here, and of course you get that chocolate shade for deepening up the crease, and there's some transition colors right here. But I just kind of consider this palette a really playful and fun palette. It's definitely not going to give you too much, but it is going to give you enough. Now, as far as the metallics needing to be layered over and over in order to achieve maximum opacity, I feel as though it's better than the first three. It's still not as good as some other palettes or other brands that I've used, but it definitely is better than the older palettes. I really do like how the matte has like a metallic that's pretty much the same that you can use, that you can pair with it, meaning you could use this peach color all over your lid and put this metallic color in the center if you just wanted to keep it simple. Same with this dark chocolate shade. If you wanted to put that all over the lid and use one of these metallics and put that in the center, that would be really good. But I think that this palette is really good for, again, work appropriate looks, church, you know, just more conservative looks. I think that it's a really good palette, even though I think most would call it boring, but it just kind of all depends on what you're looking for in a palette. But would I repurchase this again? I definitely would. I really enjoyed using this one. All right, so the next one would be the Naked Heat palette, and again, I love the packaging. So anyway, here are the shadows, and I really love this color story. Now, the reason that this is up a little bit higher is because you're getting into deeper shades, the terracotta and the deep reds and things like that, and those are some of my favorite colors. I love the way they look. I've really enjoyed all of the looks that I've created with this palette. Now mind you, again, since the color story, you know, you really can't get too much from this color story, but what you can get I really do like and enjoy. And anytime that I'm looking for a terracotta color story, or like a deep brown or burgundy or something like that, I can definitely grab this palette. I think that all of these shades are very pigmented, and you really don't have to work really hard to get a good look, meaning I don't have to go back over and over trying to layer and layer, trying to achieve the maximum opacity. But this palette I definitely love, and I would definitely repurchase it all over again. All right, and the next one is the Naked Cherry palette. Again, I love the packaging, and here are the shades. And there was a part of me that just kind of wanted to make the Heat and the Cherry palette kind of like a toss-up, a tie, but I think this one won. And again, it's because I just prefer these shades more than the ones in the Heat, because you're getting into more of a true burgundy, true pinks, and pink is one of my favorite colors, and I really like that. I get a lot lot of that right here and some dark burgundies, and you get a dark deep burgundy to deepen up your outer crease. And again, with this color story, you're not going to get be able to achieve a lot, but for me, what I am able to get out of this palette, it definitely means a lot. I've created a lot of pretty looks with this palette. And again, you know, with palettes like this, you can keep it really simple. You can have this darker shade all over your lid and put the metallic kind of in the middle. Same with these other shades. You know, here's a matte that you can put all over your lid and put a little bit of the metallic shade in the center. So when you look at it in that regard, I see already 3 different looks that I could achieve with this palette. Now, as you get into the deeper skin tones, of course, you know, the deeper skin tones, you're not going to see that much variation as with a lighter skin tone, but you're still going to see it. But either way, this ranks second in my favorites. All right, and you all know the last one, it would be the Naked Honey palette. Again, I love the packaging. It is so adorable. And here is the color story, and I like this color story. I love the gold, I love the yellow, I like how they paired it with browns and light browns, and you also get some brow bone highlights right here. Again, it's the color story that has really made it to the top. Now, while this isn't as deep as the cherry and the heat, this still falls into a really exciting and a fun palette. I did a video on this where using this palette where I created 5 different looks. So I think that you can achieve different eye looks with some good variety. I don't necessarily know if I was working, I don't know if I would wear this to work, only because I find that the metallics are kind of on the bright side. Well, I'm looking at the gold, and this gold, and well, these are okay, but I'm just kind of thinking about how my previous manager was and how I could imagine what she would say if I would kind of rock some of the shades in this palette. But you know, it's to each his own. You know, we all work in different types of environments. So but either way, I think that this is another fun palette, and I'm going to look forward to using it a lot more in the summertime, even though I can use it now. As far as the longevity, I find that these eyeshadows last a long time. They don't crease, and the pigmentation in it is really, really good. So you don't have to work a lot and keep going back and forth, back. You don't have to do all of that to achieve maximum opacity with this palette. So this would be number 1. So that's it, short and sweet. That is how I would rank my Urban Decay Naked palettes. If you are a fan of any of the Urban Decay Naked palettes, which one would you rank as your most favorite? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until my next video, smooches.